Good evening and welcome to our online cocktail concert for Christian Aid Week 2022. I'm Peter Toon, and some friends and I did this last year for Christian Aid Week, and a lot of people seemed to enjoy it and gave generously as a result. So we thought we'd do it again this year. We called it a cocktail concert because we released it at the cocktail hour in the early evening, but also because it is a cocktail of different types of music played on different sorts of instruments. Some of last year's performers are back, but there are also some new performers, and the cocktail is therefore even more varied. As well as piano and harp, which we had last year, we have got the guitar and organ and some vocal items. The styles are also very varied. We've got pieces in classical, folk, jazz, and even rock genre. So if you've got your aperitif ready, it's good cheers, santé, and it's time to enjoy the concert. Our first performer is a new face. Stephen Banfield is organist at St Peter's Methodist Church in Canterbury, but we're going to hear him playing the splendid neoclassical German organ in Mexico City's Lutheran Church. He recorded this when he was visiting family in Mexico, which reminds us what a small world we live in, which is something very important for Christian Aid. He's going to get us off to a stirring start with Bach's Wachet auf, ruf uns die Stimme. Awake and hear the watchman's call. very much, Stephen. Before our next piece, I'd like to tell you a little bit about Christian Aid and why we think it's important. Unlike some big development agencies, Christian Aid works with local partners and communities to relieve poverty and improve people's lives through small projects which make a big difference. One example of this is a project we supported in Canterbury a few years ago, improving maternity services in rural Kenya by providing antenatal care and education for men as well as for women, and buying motorbikes to get pregnant women needing specialist care in areas where there were no roads to their nearest hospital. This year's focus is on climate change, which is mostly caused by rich people, but mostly affects the poor. Jessica, seen here with her children, is a typical example. She's a mother in rural Zimbabwe who relies on farming for income and food for her children. Drought has been intensified by the climate crisis and is making this harder. She recalls that one year we had no rain. The scorching sun burnt my crops just as they were about to bloom. It was so painful and disheartening. Christian Aid can help Jessica and people like her get seeds for drought-resistant crops to set up water taps on her farm so that she can grow food in the harsh climate, transforming her dry, dusty land into a garden of hope. And now we're going to hear a song of hope sung by another newcomer to the concert, Charlotte Hardwick, who sings at St Paul's, Canterbury. She recorded this song, Someone to Watch Over Me, last year at her birthday concert. She is accompanied by Ian Carmold, whose piano playing you may remember if you saw last year's concert. Thank you, Charlotte and Ian. James Taylor's another returnee from last year, and he too is a fine singer. He sings bass in St Stephen's Choir. But today we're going to hear him in his other musical role as a jazz pianist. He's going to play some pieces by Bill Evans, and here he is to tell you about them.
Hello. Today I've got a couple of Bill Evans tunes for you. Now, Bill Evans was an absolutely fantastic jazz pianist. He's not particularly well known outside the circle of jazz fans, outside the jazz world, but one of the great things about Bill Evans, who for example played on Miles Davis's iconic album Kind of Blue, is he plays a very understated way, not much in the way of pyrotechnics, but it's all very expressive and just fantastic. The first one I'm going to do is from his album I Will Say Goodbye, and it was actually, I think, written by Johnny Mandel. It's called Seascape, and it's a really lovely piece. So without further ado, here is Seascape, roughly as imagined by Bill Evans. Well, I hope you enjoyed that. Oh, I forgot to mention I'm James Taylor, not the James Taylor, a James Taylor. I played in the previous Christian Aid concert as well, as you may or may not remember. And that was Bill Evans. Well, that was Seascape by Johnny Mandel, but in the style of Bill Evans. Well, roughly in the style of Bill Evans. It's not quite what he played, but it's similar in mood and feel. And this is another Bill Evans one. Now, this one actually was written by Bill Evans, and I think this probably counts as, if not his most famous, and one of his most famous songs. And it's called Waltz for Debbie. I don't know if he wrote the lyrics, but they're rather moving lyrics. It's a mother singing about her daughter and feeling nostalgic about her daughter's childhood. Now her daughter's all grown up. It's rather moving. Unfortunately, it doesn't really come across in my, without the lyrics, but I'll try to get some of the pathos across in my playing. So without further ado, Waltz for Debbie by Bill Evans. hope you enjoyed those two pieces. Thank you very much.
As many of you know, I started playing the harp a few years ago. The next piece is by a favourite composer of mine, Janet Bennett, who is a contemporary Northumbrian harpist. She calls it Caedmon the Harper Poet. According to the Venerable Bede, Caedmon was a monk at Whitby Abbey who composed poetry, which in those days was often accompanied by the harp. There's no poetry to go with this piece, but as you're seeing more than enough of me as I compare this concert, I thought instead of watching me play, I'd show you around our garden while you listen to this piece. We've already heard Ian Carmolt as an accompanist, which he does a lot and extremely well. But he's also a talented soloist and composer. He's now going to play for us a piece by a 19th century Polish composer, Józef Eisner, who he'll tell us a little about.
My lockdown project, playing music published in International Piano Magazine, recently come up with some Polish mazurkas. There isn't time today to play two mazurkas by Kragulski that I played in the Canterbury Musicians Meeting, or I wouldn't have time to play this piece by Joseph Elsner. It'd be nice to throw in something by Chopin as well. But the point is, Kragulski's short life was spanned totally by Chopin's life, and Joseph Elsner, he was 40 when Chopin was born, but he lived until 1854, so 5 years after Chopin died. Chopin and Kragulski were both students of Elsner's. What endeared Elsner to music historians is when Chopin was criticised for doing things that were just not within the rules of composition. Elsner's response was that the guy's a genius. No, it's not surprising that he breaks the rules. Let him get on with it. Anyway, this is Elsner's Rondo alla Mazurka in C major.
Our next piece was also originally written for guitar, but in a very different style. It's an anonymous Spanish romance, and we're going to hear a harp arrangement of it played by Claire Housden, who played for us last year. Claire's a professional harpist and also my harp teacher. Although today we're focusing on the undramatic long-term poverty of those whose lives are marred by drought and hunger, we can't forget the suffering caused by the war in Ukraine. Our next item, Andrew Lloyd Webber's Pie Jesu, sung by Charlotte Hardwick and her friend Lai Shan, accompanied again by Ian Carmolt, is dedicated to all those who have died in this senseless violence, both soldiers and civilians, Ukrainians and Russians. Merciful Jesus, give them eternal rest. After this beautiful but poignant piece, we're going to end with a couple of lighter items. First of all, we hear again from Claire Housden, this time in classical mode, playing a very soothing Passacaglia by Handel from his suite in G minor. Then we'll end in a very different style with Ian Carmolt playing one of his own compositions, Autumn Sunshine, a lively ragtime piece which he tells me was inspired by a Scott Joplin song, Easy Winners. Before we hear those pieces, I'd like to thank all our performers and also to thank you for watching. You'll see the link for on donations after the credits at the end of the concert. The concert will continue to be available on YouTube if you want to watch anything again. And if you want to share the link with your friends, please do so. God bless you and have a good evening.
you.